Well, greetings, Cap fans. Welcome to episode 247 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. I'm Rick Verbonis. I'm your host, and I've got a co host. His name is Bob Lucius. Oh, Bob, we're not toys, we're action figures.
I don't know if that was Buzz Lightyear or if that was Toy Soldiers. I don't know.
You're so close.
Was I?
So close. It was a 1998 movie
Uh-huh.
starring David Cross, Jay Marr, Dennis Leary, and Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh my gosh.
Should I give it to you?
Yeah, please.
Small Soldiers.
Small soldiers. Yes, I remember it. I can see it clearly. Yeah, the little
Yeah.
green army men. And
and uh and the character who says we're not toys, we're action figures, is do you know the character's name?
I don't.
Major Chip Hazard.
That's a great name.
And he was voiced by Tommy Lee Jones.
All right. All
Bob, why
right.
am I greeting you with that quote?
Well, let's see. We're going to be having Chip Zdarsky on tonight's
Mm-hmm.
episode, and
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about the army, kind of.
So close, but I think the listeners who have read Captain America #1, which comes out today, will get the reference to "We're not toys, we're action figures."
I read it and I don't get it.
No, the scene where Cap and Reed Richards, and he talks about his dad, how he loved Cap.
Oh, all right. Yep.
Yeah,
All
come
right. All
on.
right. Now, all right. Yep.
Do you
Yeah.
know how hard I worked for
That's a
that
good
one, Bob?
one. That is a good one. I
Because
got
to
it. I'll
your
give you credit.
because to your point, it's
Yeah.
Major Chip Hazard,
Right.
right?
No,
It's
it's good. It's got a lot of, yeah, there's a lot of, yeah, intersections there.
yeah.
I just, you're right. That's a really great few panels there. So,
Gotta say, listeners, if you're new to the show, uh, we've been doing this weekly for 4.5 years, and one of the things that I try to do to change it up at the beginning of every episode is I try to greet Bob with a different greeting that ties into to the show, and then Bob guesses, and that's why I'm creating, doing this silly
yeah,
little quote here.
sometimes they're spot on. Sometimes I have no idea, but that's not your fault, Rick. My
Well,
my short term memory. But now that you jogged my memory, there's just so much good stuff in this issue,
mhm,
Captain America #1. That yeah, I mean you picked one of them out, but there's
that's true.
so much in here.
It is. And so Bob and I actually got an advance copy of Captain America #1, thanks to Marvel Comics and Alana Smith hooking us up there, and we had a chance to read it, and then we had all kinds of questions for Chip. So we'll get to those today, and we also have a bunch of questions that have been submitted by our listeners, patrons of the show, and if you would like to, in a future time, also be able to submit questions, or get any other of our cool perks, you might want to check out buymeacoffee.com/capcomicfans. And basically, it's just a way for you to make a small donation to the show, because we use that money to help pay for our expenses and do some cool contests and giveaways and things like that. We truly do appreciate it. So you can check it out at buymeacoffee.com/capcomicfans. The other thing that is really cool that we do with our listeners is we have a really cool Facebook group. And I know what you're thinking.
Mm.
Social media. I go on
Oh
these
yeah,
groups and
are
right?
the bickering? Yeah,
The
right.
people, or you post something that you really love and then they trash
Oh,
it.
oh yeah, yeah. What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Well, in our group, Captain America Comic Book Fans, uh, we have a pretty strong rule that we enforce, and that is no negativity.
Mm-hmm.
And why do we do that? Because we ask the question, what would Cap do? Right? So if Cap sees something that he doesn't like, he would just keep scrolling,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so we have a 100% positive group that has created quite an oasis from the everyday social media and internet out there.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right, Rick. The Facebook group is an oasis for many, many people, and it's made a positive impact. I know it's made a positive impact in my life to have that sort of space where I can just be among other Cap fans.
Yep. And I will also say, we've met so many um, listeners and Facebook group members, over online, and I've had a chance to meet some of them in person at comic book shows, and it's quite the community. And so, if you're looking for a community somewhere where you can hang out with like-minded people in a positive place, check it out. Now,
Mm.
I'm going to go ahead and show something, Bob. Really, really cool.
Hmm.
By the time people hear this, this will probably be posted in our Facebook group, so you'll get first look at it there. But
Yeah.
I got in the mail today coming over from the UK this cool Captain America comic. And I know people are
Yeah.
looking at that. It doesn't look like Chip Zdarsky's Captain America #1.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
This is a fan made Captain America comic book made by Tom Boyd. And longtime listeners of
Yep.
this series would know who Tom Boyd is. He's been on the show a few times. And one of the things that we've done is we have a Captain America comic book fantasy draft where we get together, Bob and I, with a couple other listeners, and we do a fantasy draft of characters. And we pull
Hmm.
these characters, and then at the end, we pitch our story that we're going to do with these characters. And Tom, man, he took this to a whole nother level, Bob.
He real did. He put in so much research in his story selection, in his character selection, and then used that as a launch pad.
Yeah. I mean, I'm physically holding the story that he pitched.
Yeah.
And it is he got an artist, he got a couple colorists, he got a letterer, and he was the writer and came up with this story that takes place in 1994,
Hmm.
and that's why on the front of this cover it says issue 424.1. So this basically fills in the gap between
Nice.
424 and 425,
Yeah.
and it's a really cool story. But you know what else is really cool, Bob?
Hmm.
It is littered with um, fake ads from
Yeah.
1994,
Nice.
and they're all Captain
How
America
fun.
related, right? So
Yeah.
you've got video game ads and uh, trading card ads because trading cards were big back
Yeah.
in
Big, big,
1994.
big.
And he even did an ad to my comic book store that I used to own back
Wow.
in the day.
Yeah.
Uh, and then also, which is a lot of fun, there is a full page comic strip of you and me.
What?
I mean,
Oh
there's
my.
a strip of you and me. Now, this takes place in 1994, so it
Yeah.
is the Captain America radio hour as opposed to the podcast.
How much did that cost for that ad?
Oh man, I don't, I don't know.
We paid in $94.
Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, Shadows over Albion, part 1 of 3. So can't wait to discuss this in the Facebook group, and
Yeah.
can't wait to have Tom on the show to talk through it, and maybe we even do it panel by panel, Bob.
That would be awesomely fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you do the voice of Diamondback?
Sure, I can.
You know, just for fun because it takes place in England.
Yeah.
I should do the British voices, and Tom should do the American
Oh,
voices.
that seems about right. Yeah. Spot
Uh,
on. Yes.
what do you usually say? You say pip pip diddly do or something?
Pip diddly do. Yes.
All right. Speaking of writers, let's get to an actual
Mhm.
professional writer, one that we've had on the show previously. In fact, if you haven't checked it out before, check out episode 182, where we had Chip on the show back in mid 2024. So it's a little over a year later. And now we get to talk about his brand new ongoing Captain America series. Can't wait to talk with Chip. We should probably get him out of the green room.
Yeah, we've been waiting for this for a long time. So let's get him out here.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Well, our guest today is a comic book artist and writer, a journalist, illustrator, and designer. He is the creator of Public Domain, New Bern, Prison Funnies, and Monster Cops, and is the artist and co-creator of Sex Criminals with writer Matt Fraction. You've seen his work on Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, a nice 3-year run on Daredevil for Marvel Comics, and a nice 3-year run on Batman for DC Comics, and so much more. Captain America fans may know his work on Invaders Volume 3 that came out in 2019, and the miniseries starring an aged Cap in Avengers Twilight. And his new, ongoing Captain America series debuts today. We are very excited to have Chip Zdarsky back on the show. Chip, good to see you.
Good to see you guys. We did it. Woo! Cap issue 1.
Before we get into Captain America series, we want to share this clip from an episode Bob and I recorded back in December of 2024.
Right.
And it aired on January 1st of 2025.
Okay.
And we were talking about which creators we would want to have as potential new Cap writers on the series. So I'm going to share this clip with you. Bob,
right.
Do you have any particular creators that you would like to see take on Steve Rogers?
Well, I really enjoyed Chip Zdarsky's
interview. You suck. That was the writer I was going to say.
Really? See,
yeah.
Great minds think alike, Rick. Bang up job.
I'm not changing it.
Bang up job on Avengers Twilight, right? And a great interview. Understands the character, and I think he's done some great work. So let's give him a shot, folks.
All right. So all your wishes have come true, and like a monkey's paw, you're going to be reading the book being like, why did we ask for Chip Zdarsky?
Well, clearly Alana listens to the show. She saw our pitch
for
you,
think that's what happened.
And here we are half a year later. So you're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Hey, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Helping me pay my mortgage. I love it.
All kidding aside, you obviously were Bob and I's first choice for writer, so we're very excited you're on the book. You had mentioned before, writing Captain America is a dream job, and why is that? And how much did that come, from being a Canadian? And what is it about the character that appeals to you so much?
Yeah, it's weird. Like when I early on at Marvel, I was asked by the editor-in-chief what 3 titles I wanted to work on, and Daredevil and Captain America were 2 of them. So yeah, it's been on my list for a long time, and the timing has never quite worked out. But yeah, I don't know. There's something. I think maybe because I'm Canadian, I was just a little bit more fascinated with American culture and America from the distance. I mean, not much of a distance, obviously. Toronto, I can drive to America in a couple hours, but yeah, just the idea of a country where there's this guy who just like believes in the ideals of the country and fights for it. And my dad was a big World War II head when I was a kid, so I would always kind of be watching World War II documentaries with him, and the idea of the Greatest Generation, their kind of main emblem of that being transported across time to modern day, also just super appealed. Like the man out of time stuff, like kind of comes and goes in the comics, obviously with the kind of the sliding timeline of it all. I think a lot of writers kind of forget, oh no, he he's only been kicking around for like a few years. Like he should still be a little wowed by what's going on in the world around him. I was always fascinated with that, and just to have the kind of the Superman paragon qualities, but in a very human form, I think was really interesting to me as a kid. And my first real introduction to Captain America, besides the TV movies, which I have
Huh.
very fond memories of watching with my dad when my mom was out at bingo, um, was Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. Like that was the comic that kind of got me into collecting and reading them. And the first issue I bought at like a 7-Eleven was issue 7, which is just like Cap in distress on the cover. And it's all about like someone dying and oh God. And reading that, I was just like, it was fascinating to me that he was the character everyone listened to and everyone
Yeah.
followed. Like at the end, like he basically tells them like, all right, we're gonna go get the bad guys. Like they're waiting for his say so to go into battle. And I mean, he's not a normal guy, but he's like as close to normal guy as you can get in that kind of superhero realm. Um, yeah, just someone who commands that kind of respect and has that kind of moral fortitude. I really enjoy. And just kind of reading it as a kid, like my big run was Grunwald's, and especially the ones with him and Kieran Dwyer, that whole, Captain America No More, John Walker storyline just hit me like a Mack truck when I was a kid. Like I love that. I loved him just trying to figure out what it means to not be Captain America and how do you help people and how much does it matter to be wrapped in that flag. And just the perversion of it through John Walker and what kind of happens there. Um, yeah, there's a lot there, and I really appreciate it as a kid, and um, yeah, and as an adult, I've enjoyed his portrayal in the movies, and I was a huge fan of the Brubaker run. That kind of got me back into comics as well. I'm friends with Ed, so that was really fun to see. And yeah, so there's a lot there about Captain America that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the Secret Wars and what was it about that, here's Cap commanding a group that, is far out, powers him, right? And
Hmm.
I think even early on in the first issue, Wolverine even says, he's the least of us, right?
Yeah,
And that was the same thing for me. Like I
yeah,
started reading Cap maybe about a year before that with the De Mateus Zek run and
yeah,
Deathlock Lives, and that pulled me in. And then when I saw the same thing, I was like, wow, Cap's leading his team. He's the guy for me. So it was
yeah,
the same connection.
yeah. It's pretty wild that kind of that initial like burst of a comic when you're a kid and how much that can like stay with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an awesome character. And also I think because I was also hunting down the toys at the same time and that series was coming out. And I think subconsciously the fact that all those characters in the toy form had shields
Yeah.
made them feel like Cap's army. Like they're just like they're all like Cap's army. Like he's clearly the leader.
Yeah. Do what the cool kid does, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So get back
And
to,
he's not cool. That's the other thing. He's not
yeah.
cool. I love that too.
That's a good point.
Like if he
Yeah.
was cool, it would be a very different book, But like the fact that he's not cool and he's okay with that is actually
Mhm.
really refreshing.
Nah, great
That's a
point.
really interesting point, Chip,
Yeah,
because and I think I knew that, but I don't think I ever like put that into thought that like,
yeah,
yeah, he's not the cool kid, right?
yeah.
He's just the guy,
No, yeah,
right?
yeah.
I
It's
kind of
weird.
I kind of felt that when I was a teenager and I was, reading comics, and it was funny because, you know, there's the there's that hierarchy, right? And so even within comic kingdom, where you're a bunch of geeks who like comics and everybody else is picking on you, then there's the ones in comics that are picking on people. And the Captain America fans got picked on by the Batman fans and the
Sure.
Wolverine
Yeah,
fans and like,
yeah,
so it wasn't until Chris Evans, made it kind of cool at that
yeah.
point, and you started seeing kids and adults walking around with shields on their chest and,
Hmm.
that type of stuff. And I was like, yeah, now finally after decades,
Yeah, yeah. It's true. Yeah. Thank you, Chris Evans.
Yeah, it has become really iconic.
It's a cool visual and it shouldn't work. Like that's the other
Yeah,
thing. Like as a designer, I look at it, I'm just like, he's got an A on his forehead and wings on his
yeah,
temples, and he also has the star. Like that seems conflicting, having two symbols. And then look at the Buccaneer boots. Like it's weird and chainmail, and it shouldn't work, but it really, really does. And I think that's a real testament to the strength of the character.
So previously, when you're on the show, you told us about the three things that the editor in chief CB had
Yeah,
requested, right? And you mentioned Daredevil,
yeah.
and when he finally offered you the role of Daredevil, a character you specifically requested,
Hmm.
he was taken aback when you said, "Give me 2 weeks to see if I
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
have a good Daredevil story to tell you." Was
yeah.
that the same for Cap? And
Hmm.
how were you approached, and how quickly did you say yes?
I mean, it's always my way. That's how I handle every kind of job offered. But the difference is, I did have some ideas kind of percolating with Cap because they offered it to me before. They offered it to me, I think, after Ta-Nehisi's run was about to wrap up, and I couldn't do it, like because the Batman schedule was just kind of insane, and it would involve me kind of being in the Marvel room, and I would just know too much about what they're doing, but I knew too much about what DC was doing. Like, it felt very conflict of interest-y. But because they had asked me, that started the process. So I'd already had like, oh, what if this happens? What if that? And what if Cap does this? So like, um, it started the ball rolling a little bit. So when they approached me this time, and I was able to, say yes, um, I did go away and think about it, but I already kind of had stuff in mind um, that still worked for what they were doing. So yeah, and it actually worked out even better because of kind of where all the characters had repositioned in the Marvel continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, yeah, it worked out really well. It worked out well.
We actually have questions about that, some of the
Yeah,
changes
yeah.
to the characters. And when our listeners heard you were coming on the show, so they sent in several questions
Hmm.
from our patrons. So we're going to kind of sprinkle them in here in the beginning. The first one's from Grant Ball, and he asks, when coming onto a title of a long established character like Captain America, how much do you try to read of previous runs? Do you try to read a lot, a few specific runs, or nothing beyond what you have previously read?
Um, I go back a few years, um, just in terms of like just kind of seeing the what preceded me, um, just to make sure that it was kind of in step with what was happening, or if I didn't think what was being written worked, then I could kind of pivot and know I was pivoting instead of having it be a surprise, obviously. So I usually always kind of reread at least a few years before, and then I kind of go through and I kind of pick like major runs or major storylines or things that I kind of know will um, will help me kind of in my story writing. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely went back and reread the Grunwald stuff and some of the JM stuff as well. Um, and I mean, Ed stuff is pretty fresh in my mind, so I didn't have to go back and really reread any of that. There was a couple of issues I definitely read again, and let me think. Ta-Nehisi's was pretty fresh in my mind, but I did do a reread of kind of the last year of it. And JMS have been following as it's been coming out, so that was pretty easy. Yeah, yeah. So there's always little bits here and there that I kind of like I cherry pick a little bit. The only time I've ever read everything was doing I did a series called Spider-Man Life Story, and because it kind of dealt with the entire history of the character, I reread all of Amazing Spider-Man,
Wow.
which was a I mean it was a fun week. I'm just like, this is my job. I got to sit in a Starbucks and read comics all day. Thank God for the Marvel Unlimited app. It made it a lot easier. Um, yeah, and that was just kind of an OCD part of my brain. I just didn't want to miss anything. Like if there's like a little bit that could have helped me, I didn't want to like blow that opportunity. Um, yeah.
Well, I want to build on that a little bit because another one of our patrons, Mark Domeyer, wants to know, after seeing your fresh takes on Spider-Man and Daredevil, how do
Mhm.
you keep coming up with new ideas for characters that are decades old?
Well, I mean, uh, my old pal Matt Fraction put it really well once, and I always keep it in mind, is that when you're working on books like this, featuring characters who've had so many stories told, you've got to picture yourself being in a cover band. Like the song is the same, but you're putting your spin on it. Like there's nothing revolutionary about my Daredevil story or run. Like when you actually break it down, it's kind of a Daredevil story that's been done before several times, of him getting broken down, no longer Daredevil, builds himself back up, becomes Daredevil again. I just kind of took it a step further and just kind of had him kind of keep elevating past that point to like, what does Daredevil mean to the world, kind of thing. Um, and Batman is similar. You just kind of like, I took kind of like Grant Morrison's stuff and Mark Waid's stuff from Tower of Babel, and I kind of asked myself some what if questions and kind of combined them and built off of that. Um, so yeah, you're singing the same song, but you're putting your spin on it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's funny, when I took over Batman, I got an email from Mark Waid congratulating me, and in that email he said, just so you're aware, Batman is the one fictional character who's had the most stories told about him in human history. Good luck coming up with new ones. Like a real dick move. The
No
classic Mark
pressure.
Waid email.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it's accurate, right? Like James Gunn just said that recently when he's talking about like Batman movies, like they're trying to find reasons to have a Batman movie exist because all the stories have been done. I mean, that's in the movies. There's only been like, there's still been a lot, but what, like a dozen Batman movies?
Mhm.
There have been thousands of Batman comics and hundreds of Batman storylines, anyways. Um, so yeah, it's trickier in comics, but you just kind of have to like just ask yourself kind of what if questions when you jump onto a title, like what if this happened, or what if this didn't happen, or because this happened, maybe something else can happen. Like it's weirdly, it's like it's fan fiction, right? Because you're reading the stuff as a fan and you're kind of extrapolating from it and seeing what could come from it. So yeah, so I hit that with Cap a little bit. Like I had kind of bigger questions about the character and their place in the world, and just kind of went from there.
Speaking of Daredevil, so the last time you were on the show, you mentioned writing characters like Daredevil was more freeing because the character isn't tied into other areas,
Hmm.
unlike Cap. And you gave the example,
Yeah.
who's involved with the Avengers, and he's the heart of the Marvel universe, as you put it.
Hmm.
Now that you're on Cap, how are you navigating that?
It's been pretty good so far. Like, um, you definitely kind of have to reflect what's happening in the Marvel universe a bit more. You'll kind of recognize that because I've got a lot of Doctor Doom stuff kind of in there. Um, but it's been pretty good because it's a period right now where like, not that there aren't big things happening in the Marvel universe, but like it's a we're coming in at the tail end of their big event, and so there's a quiet period, which is really nice, kind of on the other end of that. So I can kind of lay down some track and help build towards things, whether it's just my thing or whether it's for the rest of the Marvel universe, or dealing with other writers and their plans. Um, it's easier. It's easier. Like I at least have some runway. Like I've written 11 issues of it now, and it's been not I wouldn't say a breeze because it's not the easiest gig, um, but all the stuff that's been happening in Marvel Universe has helped me a lot. Like I'll have a kind of a general story idea and then be like, oh, but this character, what they just did over there, oh, that's perfect. Now I can use them here, and I've got emotional resonance, and I can really build on a thing, and I can build up to something, and lead into somebody else's book, or they can lead into mine. Yeah, so that's actually been really nice. Like I enjoyed the Daredevil, kind of siloed off, but there's something really fun about playing with what's happening in the Marvel Universe as well.
I want to build on something that you said because you talked about writing is almost like being a cover band, right? And
Hmm.
you're putting your own spin on a song. So another patron of ours, Aaron Paul, wanted to ask. I loved how you added to the lore of Batman when you wrote Batman the Night. When I read the solicitations for the upcoming Cap book, it reads about flashback Doctor Doom encounter.
Hmm.
When writing a flagship character, how much liberty does a writer get when it comes to adding to that lore?
Well, I mean, maybe it's because I've been doing it for a while. You kind of know what you can get away with, a little bit. There were
Yeah.
there were definitely discussions with editorial about a few of the things that I was doing, and they have to kind of pass it up the chain of command just to get ultimate approval. But it seemed like I mean, there was the Mark Waid series, kind of Man Out of Time, which kind of covered that period. Um, um, and it did a great job. It's a great series, but there were still elements there. I'm just like, oh. maybe I can kind of dance between the raindrops here because I think there's another story kind of to be told in that period. Um, and yeah, Marvel was fine with it. Like when I pitched it in the room, I think they felt it was refreshing because I was telling a story that like it's whether it works or not, like for in their eyes, it was a bold choice to like launch a book set in the past and not just
Hmm.
set in the past, not set in World War II, because like that's usually where you kind of gravitate towards as a cap writer. But we don't really do that in this one. But to actually set it in a period that that modern continuity isn't kind of bouncing off of it, which can hurt or help you, I think, in sales. I think it can help you in terms of like being more free to tell a story. It can hurt you because some readers would be like, I want to know exactly what's happening now. I want to know what the future of the character is. But I mean, hopefully by the time they get into our second arc, they'll understand that like, oh, this actually affects that. Like what we're laying down here is also what's going to happen there. So yeah, I hope they're just along for the ride and just appreciate the story.
Yeah, so you wrote an older Cap in Avengers Twilight. Now you've got this Cap. So at some point it's got somewhere in between.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know,
Yeah.
I've written Modern Cap too because in Invaders I managed to do that, and obviously like there's a degree of cynicism as you get older. So
Right.
I've written like really cynical Cap, kind of cynical Cap, and then like maybe not naive, but definitely like a little wide-eyed at the new world
Yes.
Cap, which is it's fun. It's fun to be able to span those decades.
One other question from our patrons, Tom Boyd, who's from the UK. He asks, I hadn't read any Daredevil before starting your run, but I am so glad I started.
Oh,
I
nice.
consumed it over several nights and was blown away. The way you handled the epic superheroic action and plot, but also kept a focus on the more human aspects of the stories, Matt's life and relationships, was so masterfully done. Can we expect the same sort of balance for Captain America? Or is there something necessarily different in writing the two characters that changes that balance?
I mean, they are very different characters. Um, so it's kind of that's a hard one to say. Like,
I think it's a balance between professional career and, like fighting and his personal life.
yeah, I mean, Cap has less of a personal life than Daredevil. 'Cause Daredevil's always getting mixed up in in drama, you know, because he has a proper day job as a lawyer and a proper secret identity, and so you can play off the duality there a bit more. Steve is Cap and Cap is Steve. Like it's not like Cap takes the mask off and then starts swearing. Although that would be a pretty good storyline.
That would be
He's just
good.
a bit of an asshole when he takes his Cap mask off. He's like, "Oh, fuck you."
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just reminded of this. I did an interview yesterday for the book, and I said it'd be really funny if, like, you know, modern Cap, he was able to kind of like keep up with the times and stuff. But the one thing he couldn't quite get his head around was tipping culture, and so he always just put 5% out every time he finished a meal. It was like, I thought he was a good guy, but this asshole went for fucking $2 on a $40 meal.
That's
He just
hilarious,
can't, you
actually.
can't get out of it.
Yeah.
Um, his one flaw as a character. So yeah, so anyway, Steve is Cap and Cap is Steve. So, and obviously he has relationships. You know, he has romantic relationships like with Sharon. He has friendships with like Bucky and Sam, and you know you play with those, but there's not the dichotomy there that there is with Daredevil. Or say Spider-Man or Superman or any of these characters with secret identities who kind of present one thing and are another at home, or Batman. So it's a little bit trickier. It's not that I have less to play with, but you just have to always remember, like, oh no, you're taking this guy kind of straight on, like he is who he is from panel to panel, from page to page. I think it's why he's got such a robust cast around him,
Mhm.
just to be able to play off of that a bit more freely.
All right. Well, let's dive into Captain America #1,
Okay, all
which
right.
comes out today, July 2nd. And Bob and I were sent an advance copy, so we were very excited to read it. And so there's going to be some pseudo spoilers ahead.
Yeah, everyone's warned. She can spoil away.
I think most of these were shared in advance solicitation, so I don't think it's going to be too over the top. But I'm going to read the
Yeah.
solicitation.
Okay.
While Captain America slumbered in ice, the world changed, for better and for worse. He awakens to a reality where battles are fought in the shadows, through secrets and subterfuge, and villains aren't so easily to identify. When a fledgling dictator named Victor Von Doom conquers Latveria, Steve faces a critical decision: adopt to a new kind of warfare or forge his own path. And what will the choice he make in the past mean for his future? So this flashback is to when Steve was freshly out of the ice, maybe a week or
Mhm.
so. And
Yeah.
the number one question on readers' minds is, are you filling in the gaps? I think to your quote, dance between the raindrops. Or are there elements where you are actually retconning Steve's history to happen a different way?
I mean, there is yeah, that's a tricky one because there is a retcon. Like, I am going to go full spoilers here because it's the day after. People, if they're watching the video now, they've either read it or they want to know the spoilers. So we'll just go into it. I retconned based on the sliding timeline a bit. Like, yeah, it's kind of evident in this issue. Cap has woken up roughly 10 years ago, because that's kind of how the sliding timeline works,
Mm-hmm.
where you kind of have in your mind that the FF kind of started 10 years ago, so everything kind of has happened in that period, which is obviously bonkers when you think of everything that's happened. But that's how it's played out. And so Cap has awoken post 9/11 into a bit more of a modern world than maybe we've kind of shown him to have woken up in the past. Though Mark did that in The Man Out of Time and Mini as well. Like, all the references were a lot more modern. So I mean, that's a retcon in a sense, but it's kind of a retcon in keeping with how Marvel kind of handles all their timeline stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but other than that, like, there might be an instance where someone will point out, like, there was a panel when Captain America did first meet Doom in an Avengers story. So that will have been retconned because he's meeting him for the first time here. I think those are the kind of the major, if you like the classic retcons, it kind of undoes a thing. And in my mind, those aren't major. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that answers the question or not.
No, it does. And I
Yeah,
think it
okay.
puts a lot of minds at ease too.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have no problem with retconning. I'll retcon if it helps the story. Or if it's a thing that happened that doesn't quite make sense and you want to kind of clean it up a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's just we're adding to that period. Like, in my mind, um, like, this is about him being a soldier when he returns, and so, not that it's a mistake, but it's always kind of been weird for me that he woke up out of the ice, and as far as he was concerned, he just fell asleep and it was World War II, and then he just woke up and these Avengers are here and he helps them fight their first battle together, and then he just joins the team. But, like, the U.S. Army still exists in this world, like, and he
Yeah.
was a soldier yesterday, so I feel like his first instinct after that initial fight would be go back to base
Hmm.
and check in and see what the state of the army is and the world is and what happened, and so while it's not a retcon, it's definitely like definitely inserting a little bit of extra kind of history into this period.
It does seem though that I mean, one more of those retcons is you seem to have Cap showing up in that Fantastic Four #1 story where they're battling Giganto on the cover.
I mean, that was mostly just the fact that I kept thinking it was just like a big street destroying kind of character
Yeah.
that Cap could show up with, and I was just like, well, it's got to be Mole Man. But, like, I was worried that people were just gonna be like, oh, he showed up in their first fight, but, like, it's not their first fight.
Okay.
The FF have been around for a while because the army, knows everything about Reed and Doom, and Doom's been kind of battling the FF for a little bit at that
That's a
point.
good point. That's a good point.
So
Because
yeah, so I
yeah,
know
we
the fact that it's like Valerio kind of drew him to be. I just said monsters. I just
Oh,
didn't
all right.
I didn't
Okay. Well, it was
dictate.
very compelling, right? Because we know that like we think he met Fantastic Four for the first
Yeah,
time
yeah,
in issue 26. So a lot of
yeah,
my people are going to be scratching their heads. So God,
yeah.
thank
No,
you for clearing that
yeah,
up.
yeah. Don't worry. That'd be a wild retcon. He's like, oh no, he has it right from the beginning. The Avengers hadn't even formed yet. Like, would have been a massive mistake.
Yeah, because the first interaction between Steve and Reed that you wrote
Yeah.
was pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
And
Thanks.
to Bob's point, Fantastic Four 26, which came out in 1964, um, theoretically is the first meeting, but in that story, I actually went back and read it yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.
Reed didn't act like he had never met Cap before,
Yeah.
right? So it stands to reason the first time was never captured in a story until now.
Yeah.
And it was a nice touch to have Reed say that his dad idolized Cap.
Yeah.
I really like that, and I don't want to give anything away, but the mention of Bucky in this scene was a really great moment.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was really happy with how that turned out, and Valerio drew the hell out of it. And yeah, the Reed thing is also like a sliding timeline retcon because like Reed fought in World War II, like originally, right?
Sure.
Like
Right.
Yeah.
so
Right.
he would know
Yeah.
he would know Cap as like a guy who's out there fighting as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so obviously that can't be the case now, but I still wanted that kind of Cap connection and kind of doing it through his dad and
Mhm.
you know the his childhood seemed to work because I think people just look back fondly on Cap and be like, no, that's what a hero looks like. And I think there's something about it making it feel less silly for the modern heroes to wear these kind of costumes because Cap did it, right? And Caps was like, arguably not the silliest, but again, like the star, the colors, the
Mhm.
wingtips, like
Mhm.
it was very big and bright and bold, and I think that gives kind of the modern characters a license to do that as well.
You mentioned the fact that in your in the timing sliding timeline, you've got Cap waking up about 10 years ago. Now, having
Roughly, yeah,
having read that first issue, I would have placed it a little further back based
yeah,
on we see this mysterious character David Colton witnessing nine
hmm,
11, and we see him
yeah,
serving a few years later in
yeah,
Iraq at the toppling of Saddam's statue. And we see this lieutenant in the army who's got some mental health issues at the
hmm.
UN. Um, is there a reason why the that period seems to be a turning point in this story, like a sort of like a center point, or is it just sort of random and convenient?
The point being kind of September 11th.
Yeah, that period, that there's historical turning points, and that was a major one by
Hmm.
any argument. But
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
been other ones before and after. That
yeah. It felt close enough and yet distant enough to work, I think, for
okay.
the story. Because you don't want it to be something that happened like 10 years ago,
Mm,
because then it really kind of takes you out of the story, I think. But enough time has kind of passed since September 11th, um, that that can be kind of the focal point, and things can progress since then without Cap, and then Cap shows up.
mm.
So I think just timeline wise, it kind of seemed to work uh, for the story, and yeah, it felt like a proper kind of place to put Cap. And like when I kind of started doing the math on it all, I'm just like, that 10-year thing is a wobbly number. And that was the discussion I had with Marvel Editorial because they were just like, no, like, internally Cap was there at 9/11. Like we did that issue and he was
Oh,
the big
right.
point of
Yeah.
it. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. It happened, but also it didn't happen. Like you kind of it's both things at the same time. Like you read that
Yeah.
comic,
Right.
it happened, but like the sliding timeline of it all kind of has to shift it. And I told him like, if you don't change it now, what do you do in 20 years? Like then
That's a
it's just
good
going to
point.
seem
Yeah.
really weird because it'd be like
Yeah.
Cap showing up, you know, uh, after Pearl Harbor happened. Like it doesn't, like
Right.
it stops making
Yeah.
sense. And so
Yeah.
I said, you either do it now or you just run into the problem later and you do it then.
Yeah. I mean, it took
Um,
forever. I mean, Cap woke up in the '60s, and it really took forever to update that a little bit.
Yeah, and
Not that
that's wild when you think about that. Like the fact that it
yeah.
was like 15 years or so.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like he's a
Yeah, he was
man
a
out of
man at a
time.
time, and it was less than 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that keeps that gap will always get larger, like by necessity, unless they completely retcon Cap and we fought during a different war. But I think that changes everything way too much. Because like Marvel did introduce like a fake war at some point, like a war where Tony Stark got injured in and the Punisher fought in.
Oh,
Like
right. Yeah.
they made up like a new country and a new war,
Yeah. Yeah.
just so they
Yeah.
never have to do that again
It
because
was like an
they did
Asian
that for
country, right? Some sort of made up. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah exactly,
Yeah.
which is always kind of weirdly American centric and quasi racist. Just the idea, just like, oh, we'll just make up a country and just drop it in there, like not caring about the actual countries that exist there.
Right.
Um, but yeah,
Well, I
because
mean,
like
what Americans are gonna see? Maybe in Canada, you guys know your geography
Yeah.
very
Their
well, but in
geography is
yeah.
America, we don't.
they're like, that's a real country.
Well, it's always
Yeah.
funny because like like writing this story, I'm just like I make references to countries outside Latveria, so I keep looking for like maps of Latveria online, and like sure enough, they just kind of like plunked it in and just kind of carved out a chunk of Hungary and like, Croatia. Just like, how weird would it be to be living in that area?
Right.
Right.
And like Marvel just completely just like, yeah, no, your city doesn't exist because we
Right.
needed a place to put Latveria. It's
Mhm.
very funny. Um, yeah. So yeah. So like Tony Stark was like the Korean War, and then I think they updated to Afghanistan, and then they were just like, okay, we can't keep doing this every every 10 or 15 years to make it make sense. Him and Frank Castle, and so they invented this kind of this fake war. Um, but you can't do that with Cap. Like Cap is World War II, and
Mhm.
it's like so much is tied into that. Like there's no way you could shift that. So what ends up shifting is just that ever widening gap of
Yeah.
how long he's been away.
So one of the other things I wanted to draw attention to was the the sort of the central trope of the 1960s Man Out of Time, which is the Bucky mourning.
Hmm.
And of course, this story takes place about a week or so, as you mentioned, after Cap
Yeah.
waking up out of the ice. I mean, he doesn't seem to be burdened by that as much, and it got a bit overwrought, obviously
Hmm.
in the 1960s. But he does seem to be very focused on this idea of being a symbol,
Yeah.
and worried about that symbol, about his individuality being submerged within that symbol, and him disappearing in that process. Is that
Hmm.
going to be a thread that we're going to see as sort of being a burden that he wrestles with?
It's more so in this first arc because of the time
Mhm.
period.
Okay.
Like I think by the time we're in our second, third arcs, it's back to kind of modern Cap. So he's settled into it a bit more. But yeah, there's that. Uh, I kind of have a thing of Doom is more Doom because of the costume and because of that mask. That kind of makes him more of who he is. And Cap, it's the kind of the same thing. You put on that costume and you inspire people. And it's not a fake it till you make it, but it kind of a little bit like that. Like you're a symbol, and in death, you become a bigger symbol. So coming back to this world, like he's gonna have to get used to because he wasn't part of society really as Captain America until this point. Like he dressed up as Cap and he went off to war. like like Captain America has not been in America up until this point,
That's a good
really.
point. Yeah.
He went through the process, and I'm sure there's a few stories where he comes back to America, but like ultimately he was in European battlefield for his entire career as Captain America before he woke up with the Avengers, and
Right.
to and and yeah, and so I mean the reaction to that changes too over time. If it was only 15 years, then people know Cap a bit more. They're like, hey, I fought with you, or my dad fought with you, like
Right.
Mhm.
um whereas now it's not quite the same thing. Like
Yeah.
he's kind of legendary, but maybe even a little bit forgotten because of the amount of time and people's attention spans, things like that. And the Bucky stuff's interesting too because 15 years, it's a life cut short. Like Cap wakes up and Bucky's dead, and he should be there.
Right.
Like he
Should
should
have kids, right? Be
Bucky should
married,
be
have
there,
kids.
yeah,
Yeah.
married with kids or whatever, living his best post-war life. Whereas waking up 60 years later, um, it's a different thing. And also, Mark touched upon the Bucky stuff a lot in Man Out of Time, so I didn't want to like kind of double dip there. You got to pay homage to it, obviously, because that's a big part of him kind of waking up again. But you also don't want to dwell on it because that was already such a huge part of almost every story about Cap kind of out of the ice and
Yeah.
in the modern world. And I wanted to make sure that this had some propulsion to it.
Well, the last time you were on the show, you were talking about Bucky and the 2019 Invaders story.
Mhm.
And you said writing Bucky was challenging because you can't have him and Steve at odds. and then but Steve wouldn't approve of his methods either. So,
Mhm.
what do you do with Bucky? Is what
Yeah.
you said. Now, again, that was a 2019 story that you wrote.
Yeah.
So, since you wrote that story, Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly really took Bucky to a whole new level, right? With the
Mhm.
Outer Ring story and making
Yeah.
him the Revolution. Have you read those stories? And can we expect to see Bucky in the pages of your series?
I have. I don't want to give too much away. I don't really have specific Bucky plans. Like he doesn't show up, definitely doesn't show up for the first 11, 12 issues. Because I've got to focus on other characters. I do want to bring him in. I just have to kind of find the way and also to kind of clear it with um, other writers who are using him. Because that's the other thing. Like Bucky's a
Yeah.
popular character, so he does pop up in other places. So I've got to make sure that it kind of lines up.
Chip. Uh, I don't even know how to ask this question, but you have done something in this first story that will be a point of debate for the ages.
Good.
And I don't even know if you realize this. Maybe it was intentional, maybe it was unintentional,
Probably not.
but you have General Thaddeus
Yeah.
Ross call Steve Rogers by the rank of captain, not
Hmm.
Captain America, but Captain Stephen Rogers.
Yeah.
Did you realize how contentious a statement like that might be?
No, I know. I know. I want him to get the commander designation later on.
I say this because we
Oh,
have, believe it or not, we have had these debates in the Captain America comic book
And
fans.
also, I don't know if you remember, but Bob was a 25-year Marine. So this is a subject near and dear to his heart.
all right. All right.
So we've had these debates, and people have very strong opinions on both sides, whether it was an honorific, whether it was an actual captain, and we
Yeah.
talked about, the Paulo Rivera mythos story where, he has that rank and it's bestowed upon him, but it remains a very, debate worthy topic. So I wondered if it was,
Yeah.
sort of an intentional sort of thing or.
I mean, it wasn't to wade into any kind of debate. I was just like, yeah, let's just make him a captain.
And
Oh,
there's
I'll,
your
I'll
answer,
accept.
Bob.
I'll accept that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what can you tell us about your working style with artist Valerio Schiti?
God.
You mentioned previously that you typically write scripts and you share the notes with the artists that you work with. And
Mhm.
is that the same here, or what can you tell us about Schiti's work?
I mean, I've worked with Valerio before. We did Marvel 2-in-1 together, and that's when I discovered he's a genius. And since then, he's gone on to these like massive heights. Um, yeah, he's I mean, he's awesome. And I wanted to work with him again really badly. So when his name came up, I was like, oh yeah, 100%. Um, yeah, no, with Valerio, I just kind of I told him the broad strokes of what I'm going to be doing, and then sent in the first script. But also he inquired about kind of my reading material for it because I read a bunch of kind of nonfiction books leading into this, and I reference them. I think maybe in the script that he might want to check it out. And I think one of them, unfortunately, is not available in Italian. That's one of the issues with the language barrier there. But yeah, he was very keen to kind of know where I'm coming from with a lot of the story elements. And his designs are so great because there's a lot of new characters that kind of pop up, and that's been amazing to see. And I think he views this as like a real breath of fresh air for him because Marvel has taken advantage of the fact that he's so fast and good that they put him in all these giant event books, like Judgment Day with 1 million characters and Avengers with 1 million characters, and like that's exhausting for an artist. So getting to draw Cap, I think has been a joy for him. And then on top of that, Frank Martin Jr., our colorist, I made a big push to get him onto the book because I think him and Valerio worked really well in Marvel 2-in-1. I love Frank's colors and he really thinks about it. And that was fascinating as well because Frank is a colorist who thinks a lot about color.
Hmm.
And we've had emails back and forth where he's just kind of asking me tonally where the story goes because he wants to know where to start with the color and where to move with the color. And that's an amazing thing. Like the fact that like thematically he's thinking about color. Like what should this setting feel like and where are we headed? I don't want to start too dark if we're going darker. I don't want to start too light or bright if we're, if we got more sunshine coming. Like he really wanted to know kind of the themes. And yeah, they've both been amazing. Like I can't speak highly enough of both of them. Like they're both just top of the line professionals on this. And yeah, I think combined they're producing the best work of their careers.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing to look at. And Valerio does, I believe, the inking as well. So,
Yeah.
um, and it's interesting. If I had to describe the styles a little bit, I
Hmm.
probably would go somewhere between like a combination of like a Terry Dodson meets Cully Hamner. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see Valerio and a bunch of kind of that generation of artists to be kind of descendants of Stuart Immonen
yeah, oh,
because
yeah, yeah, I can see
they've
that.
really got they're able to really emote with their kind of expressions, almost go a little cartoony, but also really ground it in realism. Um, and everything feels solid. Like he's such a solid artist, and Frank as well, just like grounds it all amazingly.
Yeah, yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
beautiful.
we do have one last patron question,
Yeah.
and this one, her name's Ash Barnes, and she says a few years ago, Chip Zdarsky had this interaction on Twitter, and I'll for those watching, I will put the image up on the screen. It went viral online, and has since been the subject of many memes. Now,
Because
do you want to read it? But again, it's a slightly family friendly show, so maybe not the f bomb.
oh yeah, so I've sworn a bunch already.
We know.
Yeah, yeah. Please,
You know what?
please,
Today, it's
please
not a
bleep
big
it out.
deal.
Yeah, it's funny because the screen grab I just kind of pulled up. I typed in a daredevil cry sex and I pulled it up. Um, somebody was kind of tweeting about whether or not Daredevil cries during sex,
Hmm.
and somebody responded and said Matt Murdock cries during sex, and I was tagged, and so I had to respond. I said, sorry, he cries before sex, he cries after sex, but never during sex. During sex, he has a effing job to do.
That's right.
I
And
stand by it.
apparently
That's
this
canon.
blew up.
Yeah, yeah, it really did. Like people have brought that to me at conventions, printed out to sign.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
Well, Ash has a question
Okay.
related to this. So she says, therefore, my question for Chip has to be, does Steve Rogers cry during sex?
Oh, Steve Rogers doesn't have sex. What's wrong with her? I'm waiting till marriage.
There you go. Yeah. He's
Ah,
not the cool guy.
Yeah. Um, no, Steve Rogers has had sex. I can canonically say that. That would be a little weird if he didn't. Um,
didn't that come up in She-Hulk?
It did.
Right, in that
Yeah.
She-Hulk MCU series, it was like at the end of an episode or something like that, and they were talking about whether or not Steve had sex.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I will say he does not cry during sex. But unfortunately, one of the things he does during sex is salute. And that
I thought you were going to
sometimes
say hum patriotically, but
no, so it sometimes hurts his partner, and he feels really bad about it, and maybe he cries at that point. I don't know.
uh,
Oh, very nice. All right. The last time you were on the show, I mentioned to you that a certain percentage of listeners stopped reading new comics years ago. And I asked you, what do you
Fools, the
say to those
fools.
about, to try out Avengers Twilight? And you said, well, you're not a good salesperson, but you gave your pitch.
Yeah,
So I'm going to ask you the same question for the new Cap series. What do you say to those who don't read today's comics?
you don't need to know anything to read this issue. That was one of kind of my goals going into it. Like we kind of catch you up, we give you the clues as to what's happening and what has happened in this issue. It helps if you have a basic knowledge of Captain America, the general story of him going to sleep and waking up. But everything's there on the page, which I think really helps because sometimes comics can just be comics about comics, and makes it a little harder for new readers to enter into it. But I mean, honestly, like I probably said this with Avengers Twilight because Daniel Acuna is so great, but the art alone, like I'd be picking this up just to kind of look at it. I think my writing's okay, but I think Valerio and Frank elevate it to a whole new level. Um, and I think we had some interesting twists and turns here, and kind of new characters and new situations that people won't be expecting. So I think it's a fun addition to the Cap mythos, and and getting in on the ground floor of some new characters. So you can say, yeah, no, I read that when it was coming out.
Mhm.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you're being too humble. The writing was much better
Yeah.
than just okay.
Oh, thank
But
you.
but I do agree, the art is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really lucky.
I will say that it's a it builds, as you get through that first issue until you get to that last splash page,
Mm.
which just like sort of blew my mind.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
yeah, so I mean, there's nobody's going to pick up that first issue and not come back for the second issue. I promise you that.
That's the hope, right? Like, yeah, I really wanted that hook, and I knew that last page was going to be so important. I was doing sketches of it to show to show Valerio and Frank. Like, I kind of had like color ideas of how the reveal is supposed to happen, and
I know we should
uh,
have told Ash just wait for the last page and you'll see whether or not Cap has sex.
this is a family-friendly podcast. How dare you? Um, yeah, no, I really, I had a very strong feeling as to how those last couple of pages should go, and I'm so glad they turned out as well as they did. Just beautiful stuff, and the design for the new character is like myself and Valerio kind of working hand in hand to make sure that it stands the test of time too. So yeah, so I mean, look, speculators should be buying it as well because of first appearances and all that jazz because I know that helps sales. I want to keep
Yeah.
this book going as long as I can.
And how many covers are you getting, Bob?
Well, like I said, I got 5. So yeah,
All
yeah,
right, hot damn,
yeah.
woo!
Uh,
I've been doing. I get to do variant covers for the first 5, which has been a lot of fun too. I've done them all, and yeah, they're a real treat to get to draw a Cap in the situations.
yeah, really liked the negative coloring that you did on that first variant
Oh,
cover.
thanks.
Yeah, with
Yeah,
the blue in the eyes. Yeah, that was really cool.
I attempted again on the 4th one featuring a new character, and yeah, it's my favorite cover probably I've ever done. It's turned out really nice. And
Can't wait to
usually
see
I'm
it.
not a fan of my own art, so I'm yeah.
Any projects coming up that you can share with the listeners?
No, it's like I mean, there's one for Distillery, White House Robot Romance, which is exactly as it sounds. It's about a romance in the White House between 2 robots that work there, and all the problems that come from that. I think that's coming out September, and it's gorgeous. It's Rachel Stott and Tamara Bonvillain on art, and that Distillery format is just so lush and big, and I love it.
And
So
who's publishing that?
that's Distillery.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's that oversized kind of square bound uh, format, 45-page issues, and it's a lot of fun, and it's beautiful. That's the only thing I can really talk about because like right now I've got 2 massive things kind of sitting at Marvel, in which I'm waiting for the notes back. And if they get approved, it'll eat up several years of my life. So yeah, I'm waiting on tenterhooks for that one.
But if you get those, you're still going to write Cap, right?
Well, yeah, I'm so far ahead on Cap. Like I've written 11 issues of Cap. Like I've written so much that they've told me to stop. They're like, you've actually written so much, like our accounting department doesn't even know how to pay you for a thing that comes out in like a year. Like, just ease up, man.
Might we
Um,
see an annual in this file?
we debated it for a couple of story elements, but we did that a couple times on Daredevil where like things kind of sprung out of it, and
Mhm.
sometimes that helps because you're afforded more space for a story. But I really like having everything contained within the main
Mhm.
series. Like, I don't think it hurt us necessarily on Daredevil, but I don't think it helped. That's for sure.
Hmm.
All right, Cap fans, take it from Bob and me. So if you're going to want to pick up this first issue and give it a try, the art, as we said, is beautiful. We get to see a side of Steve that's not explored too often in those early days after the ice. There's also intriguing new characters and David Bolton and the new Howling Commandos.
Hmm.
There's a new stealth suit. You
Yeah.
really need to check it out. And if you do try out number 1, like any good chip, I bet you can't try just one.
Wow. Good job, man. Good job.
Well played. Yeah. Nicely done.
Uh,
Uh,
Chip, thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
yeah,
As
it's a
always,
pleasure.
it's a real pleasure to wrap cab with you.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Doing great
All
work,
right.
Chip.
Appreciate it.
Well, that was a lot of fun talking with Chip.
It was, yeah. I mean, I have been looking forward to this, as I said at the beginning of the show, for a long time. And particularly when we heard that he was going to be the writer on the new Cap series, and we were going to have an opportunity to read this in advance of talking to him. I mean, this is like a dream come true, right? And it was well worth the wait.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really looking forward to see where this story goes. The new characters that he's creating, and also how, as he said, the dancing between the raindrops, right? The story
Yeah,
between the stories. So I was glad to hear that it wasn't a true retcon. And I agree with him. I don't think the sliding Marvel timescale is considered a retcon. It has to
right.
happen
No,
every once in a while. So
yeah,
now I know there's probably going to be some people out there that are like, well, no, Cap came back in the 60s,
yeah. He
well,
had that hat,
yeah, right.
smoke. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Um, but you gotta modernize it so it makes sense, for now.
Right.
So I don't see them being any true retcons. I'm really glad that you asked him about the monster from
Hmm.
Fantastic Four, because I also got the impression that was the cover to Fantastic Four #1,
Yeah,
and it turns out that it wasn't, because
right.
because then that would have been a little that's retconny, right?
Yeah, it's retconning.
But it
Yeah,
wasn't. It was
yeah,
it was just um, a time where he met, and then like I said, I did read that Fantastic Four issue, and I was looking for it. It was like,
yeah.
he interacts with Cap, but he never is like, "Nice to meet you."
Right.
So it makes sense then that there was a first time. Then this is now we can finally get to see it.
Yep. Yep. That makes a lot. But yeah, and you're right. I'm glad he clarified it because I think both you and I were a little confused, and I think a lot of folks are going to pick that up, and it's striking, right? The image of the monster, and so yeah,
Munster.
months. I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad. And especially with the movie coming out, a lot of folks are going to make that connection.
Well, as I said, I am totally on board. Can't wait to see. I believe the first 5 issues are the first story arc, which is
Mhm.
takes place in that time period, and then we're going to see the next story arc, which is going to be in the current time period. So,
Right. Yeah.
looking for how this all builds towards that, and then can't wait to see what the payoff's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm invested. So a lot of great new characters we've been introduced to that I'm definitely going to want to follow and see how they pan out. But it's off to a great start. So let's go.
Yep. Next episode, come back for episode 248, where we continue our long tail story. Cap becomes Nomad, part 6. This is Captain America 181 from 1974. So we're going to continue with that story, which is by Steve Englehart and Sal Buscema. And if you haven't been keeping up on that, make sure you go back and listen to episode 244 before that, which is part 5. All right, Bob, do you have any plans for Independence Day?
I sure don't, Rick. We're just gonna spend some time at home. Get caught up. I'm still cleaning out the garage, so maybe
Mm,
maybe that'll be a weekend project that weekend. And no, I'm just gonna take some time off. I think.
that sounds like fun. That'd be
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Yourself? Any
Oh,
traveling or?
I'm sure I'm no travel. I'm
Yeah.
sure I'm going to maybe relax in the pool a little bit.
Hmm.
And I probably have a lot of podcast stuff to get
Oh
caught
yeah.
up on. I'm behind. And by the way, if I owe anybody something mailing, I promise you it's on my list. Life has gotten in the way. So shoot me a message if you feel like I've left you out, but I promise you, I have not. I will get to it as soon as I can. Um, and with Independence Day coming up, just a reminder, uh, on July 3rd, on that night, make sure you put out your milk and cookies for Captain America.
Never gets old.
Never gets old.
Any reason for cookies?
Yes.
Yeah,
Bob, as always, so much fun wrapping Cap with you.
it has been. See you next week, buddy.
All right. He's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis. And if you don't mind, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. And if you're on YouTube right now, you know what to do. Just hit that thumbs up button, give us a like, make sure you subscribe there, and we love comments on YouTube as well. And as I mentioned before about the Facebook group, make sure you check that out and leave us a comment there. And as always, we thank you for listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.
I love the tension, the build up.
Oh, this is all getting edited out.
Ah,
Gosh.
can't edit it out if I'm singing all throughout it.